welcome back to the SighSquad Podcast. It's another great week to be a sports fan. With us this week, we have Ethan back with us.
Yeah, really quick. I'll dip after I do my segment. It's got to be a dad, you know.
Yeah, he'll be talking about the Lions, and we'll be kicking it off here with franchise mode, so take it away.
Yeah, so obviously, like Duncan said, for franchise mode, I was given the Detroit Lions. And I specifically put in my notes, I said, personally, I don't think Detroit will ever accomplish anything in the NFL. I really don't. I just think they're kind of a cursed team. And I'm not superstitious, but I just think they're cursed. I just don't think they'll ever do anything in the NFL remotely great. They're one of the most historic franchises up to this point in the NFL, but yet they have nothing to show for it besides early retirements. But anyways, for this next season, I took a different turn with kind of what, not necessarily a different turn, but I laid out their plans I put for the future. Because like I said, I don't think they'll ever accomplish anything. So I think that this is all something that is just going to make Detroit fans have a reason to watch Detroit this year. I said for my first thing I would do is I'd fire Matt Patricia. I really do. I don't think he is the right coach for them. I personally don't even think he's a great coach. I think he should have stayed a coordinator. The second thing I said they should do is they should just hire an intern head coach and don't look to find Matt Patricia's replacement until this offseason. I think they should wait to see kind of who gets the boot after this year. Then they should really look to just revamp that entire front office, kind of fire everybody. Because I definitely think Detroit just needs to build for the future, because I think they've been stuck on this roller coaster of the same team every year, just new rookies. The next thing I said is they definitely need to start looking into Matt Stafford's replacement. They literally have nobody behind Matt Stafford right now that looks like they could be a future piece. And Matt Stafford obviously isn't getting any younger. I mean, the guy is constantly he's always been a good quarterback, but he just doesn't have the supporting cast around him to ever really do anything.
So you mentioned quarterback, and when you first started, you mentioned that Detroit's never going to amount to anything. Quick fun fact for you: the Detroit Lions back in the 50s had a quarterback named Bobby Lane. It was a fantastic quarterback for him. When the team dropped him in 57, he said that the Lions will not win 50 years, and they will never amount to anything.
Oh, and do you want to know even better? You know what happened for year 50?
They went 0-16.
They went 16.
And actually, since Bobby Lane, they've had one Pro Bowl season from a quarterback, and that was in 57.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Ben. It just shows how reassuring, the Detroit Lions, I mean, it's sad because, like I said, they are, technically one of the most historic teams in the NFL, they've had some of the best players at their respected positions. Just even, obviously get a Thanksgiving game every year. That's their tradition and stuff. But yeah, like I said, with Matt Stafford, he's 32 years old and they have nobody behind him, rookie or young present wise. They have a guy on the roster named David Blau, I think is how you say his last name. His QBR for his career in 2 seasons is a 32.1. He has 4 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. And then Chase Daniels is the only other quarterback on that roster. So they literally have nobody to build the team around for the future. Now, obviously, I get it. They don't think they need to replace Stafford just yet. But the problem is, I just don't see why you'd want to pay Stafford another, $60-70 million contract once his contract expires, because he's going to be 33, 34 years old. And he's just, I don't know. I just don't think it's going to be worth it for him. I get it. He's probably going to end up as, you could probably say you probably end up as their best quarterback ever, just in terms of stats and stuff. Yeah. Granted, he had Calvin Johnson for a lot of his years, or for a few years. But
yeah, but even then, even after he retired, Matt Stafford put up some good numbers.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, so I think the third step for them in this year is to start looking into Matt Stafford's replacement. I really do. Whether that they find some guy from another team's practice squad or a young free agent, just to bring in and kind of see what they can get out of him, and possibly, if he could be the replacement long term. Next, the fourth thing I said they should do is they should just trade all their veteran players. I don't get why they keep some of the players they do. looking at their team, like they have very crowded positions. Like running back, they have Kieran Johnson, Ty Johnson, who they drafted this year, obviously, and then Bo Scarborough, and DeAndre Swift. Sorry, DeAndre Swift is who they drafted this year. Sorry, not Ty Johnson. But still, like, that's four good, obviously Kieran Johnson and DeAndre Swift are easily starting running backs. But I mean, just that's a lot of running backs, I feel like, to keep on one team that, you know, obviously had that like 30 game stretch without a 100-yard rusher. You know, like, they're just not a run first offense, and they have all these running backs on the team that they really don't need. Same with wide receiver. I mean, you got Danny Amendola, Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones Jr. You know, TJ Hawkinson is a great receiving tight end. I just think they have too many like guys that they really don't need. So I think guys like Marvin Jones, Desmond Trufant, I know they traded for him after they traded Darius Slay away, but I think he's a name that they could trade. Danny Amendola, like I said. Yeah, I think they just get rid of their veteran players and build for their future. I think they could get decent picks for those guys in return. So next is actually my next step is to get as many draft picks as possible. Because again, they ain't gonna do shit. Especially this year, I don't think the NFC North is a division that they can compete in. I don't think that they will finish. I think they'll finish last in the division, to be honest. I think Chicago easily is better than them. Obviously, Minnesota and Green Bay are ahead of them. So yeah, I don't see Detroit really doing much this year. So they should just tank and get as many picks as possible and let rookies and young guys play to see what they have for the future. Next is play a lot of young players this season. Yeah, I think they should just see what they have and then address what they don't have this next offseason. Because my seventh step for them actually is rebuild for these next 2 to 3 years. Because I genuinely think in 3 to 4 years, the NFC North could really be a winnable division. Obviously we don't know what Jordan Love will become, and obviously we don't know what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. Kirk Cousins obviously isn't getting any younger. The Vikings are looking like they're probably going to have to rebuild in the next 2-3 years, depending on how their rookies play. So yeah, I think if they were to ever do anything, the window wouldn't be for probably another 3 years at earliest. And then I think that's a good timeline, because if you start looking for Matt Stafford's replacement now and you kind of develop him the next 2 years, then by that third year you get the other pieces around him. I think Detroit could be a good team that could compete in the NFC North once, you know, like I said, Aaron Rodgers is gone, Kirk Cousins is gone. Obviously, Chicago's going to have to look at different quarterbacks. All the defenses in the division obviously are going to start getting older. And then once they have to start paying players, it's going to be a lot harder for them to keep those defenses intact. So,
I have a hot take for the Detroit Lions. Matthew Stafford, taken first overall 2009. Is he a bust? I'm looking at his numbers right now. 250 touchdowns, 130 interceptions, 12 years, 1 Pro Bowl selection, and a win-loss record of 68 to 78.
How I personally do it is I totally get those numbers are not what you want when you draft a guy for the first overall pick. But I also kind of view you have to kind of take those stats with a grain of salt, because like obviously you look at Matt Stafford's situation he's been in. When has Detroit ever done anything to help him other than having Calvin Johnson?
Never.
Yeah. And he still managed to lead that team to 2 playoff appearances, if I'm right, 2 or 3.
No playoff wins. I think it was 1 appearance.
Yeah. Well, he's made the playoffs at least twice, I know, but I know he's never won a playoff. But that was with leading, not having any 1,000-yard rushers, having really nothing at wide receiver except for Calvin Johnson, having lackluster defenses, and he still managed to pull that team to like 9-10 wins of the year they made those playoff runs. So when you look at it like that, and I know he's had the injury issue, especially over the last couple of years too, but that's probably because he just has to do so much for that team. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like I said, like, don't get me wrong, I still think Matt Stafford's a great quarterback, and I think he's definitely a starter in the league.
Oh yeah,
I just don't think he fits Detroit's situation right now. I really don't.
I can't name a lot of quarterbacks that would fit Detroit's system. Or their issues. I shouldn't even say system. Their problems.
Yeah, that is true. It's just I just don't see why Detroit want to pay him that much, like a ton of money to come back.
Well, and paid him much money 2 or 3 years ago, right? He was the highest paid quarterback in the league.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, he would have been one of the highest for sure.
Actually, I think in 2017 when he signed his new contract, he was the highest paid player in the league.
Which, I mean, he's been carrying his team on his back, so it makes sense that if you're gonna pay somebody to pay the only guy that's worth anything on your team.
Yeah, it's still just one of those things. It's just because I think his contract expires not this season, but after next season. I could be wrong.
Yep. I think you're right.
He'll be 34 by then. So he's probably looking to get one last major pay. He'll probably look to get a 3-4 year deal, probably worth anywhere from $50 to $70 to $80 million. I'm willing to bet he's going to want a bigger contract. And I just don't know why Detroit would want to give him that, considering A, he'd be 34, and B, they really don't have that good of a timeline to keep him around that. But that's just the way I was taking this whole rebuild, I guess.
Yeah.
Or fixing the team.
And honestly, I would say Matt Stafford would he would have to use one of those guys you have to almost just trade. I mean, because the thing of Matt Stafford is I still think he has a good few years left. I mean, you put Matt Stafford on a contending football team that has everything else going for him except the quarterback position. Holy crap! That team could do something.
Oh, definitely.
If Matt Stafford got traded to, not saying it'll happen because why would you trade within your division? But Matt Stafford went to the Bears tomorrow. Holy crap! I think Chicago could win that division. Honestly.
Yeah.
Give him that defense. Offensive line is good enough to keep him healthy. Weapons are definitely better in Detroit, but it's not Chicago has bad weapons by any means.
Yeah.
They won 12 games with Mitch Trubisky one year. I think they can win 10 plus with Matt Stafford.
So
a daily shot at Mitchell.
But finally, I do have one final step that doesn't really relate to the season, but something that Detroit needs to do. They need to apologize to Calvin Johnson after they had like that beef with him like a year and a half ago. Because Calvin Johnson deserves better than that.
Oh, facts.
I think Calvin Johnson he's easily their best player in franchise history, and I think he deserves a love from that team that he put into all those years of abuse and playing on really shitty teams and never once, bitching or demanding a trade. So I think Detroit needs to apologize to him.
Yeah.
Did you say that Calvin Johnson is the best player in their franchise history?
I would say so.
I mean, I would personally
What
say...
about Barry Sanders?
I mean, here's the thing is, it's probably Barry and Calvin Johnson. It's those two, but I'd probably put Calvin Johnson a little bit higher, half a step.
Only because Barry Sanders is considered the best running back ever. Calvin Johnson's obviously one of the best ever do it, but no one thinks of Calvin Johnson is the best ever. It's either Randy Moss or Jerry Rice, which understandable.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I said, that's no disrespect to Barry Sanders on my end either. Well, I really don't think Barry Sanders is a bum or anything. I definitely, I said, I think it's Calvin Johnson and Barry Sanders. Had they both played an entire career's worth of, seasons, it probably would have been a little different.
Yeah.
Because Barry Sanders probably would have ended up as the NFL's all-time leading rusher, to be honest.
Oh, I guarantee.
So I think things would have been different with that aspect too. But yeah, because you also got to remember Calvin Johnson also, I think he still holds the most yards in a single season.
He does. That is a fact.
With almost 1,900 yards, which is fucking insane.
Oh no, he had over 2,000 receiving yards, didn't he? Because I thought there was something about him hitting the 2,000 mark.
Did he? I thought it was only I can look it up while I'm wrapping this up. But yeah, like I said, I don't think Detroit will do anything for a while. This year especially, the absolute best I could see them doing, absolute best, is them going 7-9. And I personally think they'll probably go closer to 4-12. It's just like I said, I think they're easily the worst team in the division, if not the NFC. Because I just don't see many teams in the NFC being worse than them, to be honest, with how the divisions changed so much this offseason. Because the NFC, in my opinion, got a lot harder, and Detroit didn't really get much better. So that's where I stand on them this year. Okay, Calvin Johnson was close to 2,000 yards. He finished with 1,964 yards.
Oh my God, that's still absurd.
Yeah, and that's what I mean is yeah, no disrespect to Barry Sanders, but Calvin Johnson did crazy things as well, like in terms of records and stuff.
I would just give Barry the edge only because he is considered the best running back of all time, where Calvin Johnson is not considered the best wide receiver of all time.
And that's fair.
And, you know, because, like, Calvin Johnson, I mean, again, like, I'm trying to, like, say this without, like, making it sound like I'm disrespecting Calvin Johnson, because obviously Calvin Johnson is a top 5 receiver, you know, at bare minimum top 10 ever play this freaking game. But I really think Barry played with worse teams back in the 90s. And he also led him to playoff berths, which is a lot harder to do for a running back, just because, you know, especially when you're a one-dimensional offense, it's just harder to lead a playoff team as a running back, which is why I consider Adrian Peterson's 2012 season to be the best season a running back's ever had.
That is true.
Like, what I epitomize, again, off topic, but what I epitomize as an MVP is what Barry and Adrian Peterson did.
Yeah, I guess I can agree with that.
But again, like, you could say Calvin Johnson, I won't be like, what the heck? How do you not have Barry? But I would just personally, those are my arguments for Barry. But like I said, you can put Calvin in, and I would not be mad about it, because Calvin Johnson is obviously fan-freaking-tastic. He's, again, one of the best to ever do it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to keep Ethan aware of Barry Sanders.
Right.
Oh, no, yeah, 100%. Like, yeah, like I said, and it wasn't trying to bring up, like, a debate about, like, Barry Sanders versus Calvin Johnson, because, I mean, real appreciate real. Like, they're both GOATs in their own aspect. Like,
right. Both had way too similar of careers, which is annoying.
Yeah, exactly. They both had their Hall of Fame careers wasted on shitty Detroit Lions teams.
Yeah, no shit. Imagine being Detroit and you have two players that were one of the best players of their respective position, and you couldn't do anything with it. Like, you couldn't just do anything with it. Like, you couldn't even win a playoff game. Barry at least won a playoff game before. Actually, I'm pretty sure the Lions went to the NFC Championship back in the 90s just because of Barry. That's how good he was, which is insane.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thing to remember, too, is Calvin Johnson was a part of that 0-16 team.
That was his rookie year, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because they drafted Matt Stafford the very next year with the first overall pick.
Damn. Fucking damn.
So, yeah, it's...
Then, God, he is part of the first team to ever go 0-16.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I said the Detroit Lions should rebuild. They're the epitome of terrible in the NFL. Statistically, I know they're not the worst NFL team, but I mean, my God, they are bad. They probably will never. Honestly, the only way I could ever see them really, really competing is if there's a division realignment and Detroit moves to a weaker division.
Well, I will say this, though. There is a guy that's out on that's going to be in the draft this year that could change a whole franchise.
That is very true. Maybe
just one guy.
Justin Fields.
South Carolina. If the Lions take him, if they get the first overall pick, which they have a realistic possibility of doing so, I mean, my goodness. Hey, and then the Lions can have 3 great careers that they can waste.
Yeah, right.
They get the best quarter, because let's say Trevor Lawrence goes to Detroit. He puts up insane numbers, is one of the best ever. Now they have one of the best positions at every major offensive position, and wasted all.
That would be Detroit.
That would leave it to Detroit. But yeah, Detroit's never been good in my lifetime, like ever, or in any of our lifetimes, if we're being real.
Yeah, like you said, yeah, they probably had they did have a couple of good years with Barry Sanders, but outside of that, I mean,
yeah, exactly.
They've never amounted to anything.
No, gosh, no.
But yeah, that's how I would fix Detroit. Oh, my other backup plan, which this is totally unrealistic, and I know it never happened, is to relocate Detroit just to get him out of there. But like I said, I know that it will never happen.
Rip.
To be fair, though, 9 of Detroit's losses last year were by less than 7 points.
That's
so they
true.
always contend in games.
Right, and he was
make it worse.
A lot of them.
Yeah. No, I remember that because remember we joked about it all year last year. Detroit could not close out games. They lost like 5 of those games on game-losing drives.
Yeah, they lost to the Chiefs on a game-losing drive.
Yeah.
Which would have been huge.
Yeah, that would have kept them as the tied for division leader at that point, I think, too, because they played Kansas City early in the season.
Yeah, week 4.
Yeah, and not to mention, they also tied against Arizona when they blew a big lead, so that's another win they should put under their belt.
Yeah, but, I mean, that just shows the kind of team Detroit is.
It's fair.
Imagine being a Detroit.
Yeah, right.
Imagine walking around in public and saying, "I am a Detroit Lions fan. I'm wearing blue and silver because I'm a Lions fan."
It's almost worse than being a Cleveland Browns fan for the fact that at least you know Cleveland is supposed to be bad. Like you have that expectations that they will be bad, and then you have Detroit who has so much promise, and then they never do anything with it.
Right, exactly.
That's fair. Well, thanks, Ethan.
Yep, thank you for having me.
We will send you a keychain or something.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
I will be in contact and then maybe make another cameo appearance at another time. Yeah,
All right.
probably not next week, but yeah, maybe some other time.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was the Lions.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah.
All right.
It really was.
We'll
See
see
you
you.
guys.
Yeah. All right. So next we're gonna move on to the Texans franchise mode. Now the Texans are a fun story actually. So last season they went 10-6. They won the AFC South. They made it to the divisional round of the playoffs. They were actually ahead of the Kansas City Chiefs by a long shot at one point. But then they seemed to blow that lead and lose 51-31, making Kansas City have the biggest win or comeback or whatever in playoff history. So since then, they've traded away DeAndre Hopkins. They did get David Johnson. In the draft, they got a defensive tackle, a linebacker, an offensive tackle, a cornerback, and a wide receiver. Probably the only name is probably Ross Blacklock was probably their best pick. They also picked up Randall Cobb, Brandon Cooks, Eric Murray, Brent Quavel, and then Timmy Jurgensen. None of those players are bad players. All are starting level. I'd argue that Brandon Cooks and Randall Cobb could easily be above average if they are utilized in the right way. But they also lost Carlos Hyde. Lamar Miller is still a free agent. DJ Reader, and then Jonathan Joseph. So they covered obviously they covered up what they lost for the most part, but they did have those losses. You also have Laramie Tunzel and Deshaun Watson, who still need to be paid. I'm guessing they'll both get that deal done since they traded D-Hop, but you never know with Billy O'Brien there, what he's gonna do. So if you look into the 2020 season, I say the best they can go is probably 8-8. They have a tough schedule. They play to start off the season. Actually, they play the Chiefs, Ravens, and Steelers. So it's a tough start. They do have a couple easy give-me games possibly in Detroit and the Patriots and then the Bengals, but those could also not technically go the right way. The nice thing about their schedule though is they do have their hard part of the schedule top heavy, and then they go into bye week 8. So week 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14, 15, 16, and 17 are all very winnable. I don't expect them to win all those games, but it's the Jags, the Browns, the Patriots, the Lions, the Colts, which would be the big question. They play the Colts twice, but then the Bears, the Titans, and the Bengals. So it's not like their second half of the schedule is so hard where if they were on the brisk of a playoff berth that they couldn't get it together to win a game or two to make it into the playoffs. But I think if they're not in playoff contention towards the end of the year, they might as well just not go for disappointment. I do think the Colts are going to win that division easily. And so it's interesting to see what they do. But if they don't win the playoffs or go to the playoffs this year, I'd say the best thing to do would be to fire Bill O'Brien. He's made a lot of questionable decisions, especially coming into this offseason. And I just don't think that if DeAndre Hopkins is having problems with him, I'm questioning if there's other players that he also doesn't have a very good relationship, such as Deshaun Watson. And I think that could cause problems for the best of Deshaun Watson to keep him keep him as a Texan. I think that you just have to put a winning coach around him, and I don't know if Bill O'Brien can still do that.
So I have two quick things. Bill O'Brien is currently the head coach and the GM. Do you think they need to bring in an actual GM?
Yeah, I think they need to bring in an actual GM. I think Bill O'Brien, he's kind of taken that power of being both into his head, and I think that's how he backs up making questionable decisions. Yeah, because I'm not going to get in trouble because I am my own manager.
Right. And then the other thing that you said, I had a question about, you said you think the Colts are the easy win, the easy team to beat the division. Do you think the Colts, I know it's not really Texans related, but do you think the Colts have a better chance chance of taking the division than the Titans.
I do actually. I just like what the Colts have. They got Phillip Rivers. You got to remember.
Yep.
And so I just believe in that. I think that they're probably the best team. I don't think that the Titans are gonna have their princess year again. And so I just think that the best bet would be on the Colts.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think Tennessee is going to be a good team this year, but I agree. I think Colts have the better roster. I think they probably have. Well, okay, never mind. They have the second best quarterback in that division, but still, he's gonna. Phillip Rivers is gonna have a lot of offensive weapons. Their defense is gonna be better because obviously they got DeForest Buckner, and their defense was injury riddled last year. But assuming that doesn't happen this year, their defense will be a lot better. And they gave your Rhodes. So what up?
What a great player that is.
Yeah, no shit.
But yeah, that's how I have the Texans going.
I have no major issues with that. That was pretty solid.
Ooh.
Like I agree, like Texans schedule is really hard right away, but if they can manage to just if they can go into their bye week with at least like 4 wins, like they should be. I think they have a good chance to make the playoffs. But like I can see them getting to a rough start. Like
yeah, I think if they go, I think for me, I think they're where they need to be going into the bye is I think they need to be at 3 wins there.
I would say so too, to give themselves a legitimate shot, because that is a tough ass schedule they have to play right out of the gates.
Okay, who's next week's for?
I am.
You are. Alrighty.
Spin them big, boys.
Who do you think you're gonna get?
I hope I get the Packers. That'd be easy.
Nothing.
Are you gonna kick out Aaron Rodgers?
What?
Are you gonna kick out Aaron Rodgers?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Well, let me see if I can share this. There we go. Can y'all
I'm
see
just
it?
hoping he doesn't get the Patriots.
I could do good with the Patriots.
All right.
No, you
Y'all
can't.
can see the wheel.
Not the wheel.
I can see your screen, but it wasn't a wheel.
What's on the screen?
It's
Looks like
just-
your Skype call.
Yeah.
I see your tab open for wheels and name at the bottom, but your Skype call's in front. Oh, there it is. It's coming. There we go.
I see.
Big money, big money, big money.
Here we go.
Daddy wants a new pair of shoes.
Oh
no my
way!
Let's
No
go.
way!
Let's go. Easy money. All right.
Oh,
I'm get ready for my in-depth presentation next week. It's gonna be a several-page paper, so get ready.
Oh my
Alright.
goodness!
That is I'm scared to see how that goes.
Oh my goodness!
That's something.
All right, guys. So I think we
Exactly.
shouldn't do anything. We're just gonna walk to the Super Bowl, and y'all are gonna laugh because you're gonna be the ones saying that we're gonna go 8-8, and then we're gonna win. And I'm gonna like give you a big gesture with my hands. Sorry, I'm
That's
just
me.
a psychic, and I know what Ben's gonna do.
Wow. Okay. Well, so next week is the Green Bay Packers.
Hell yeah, brother.
It's gonna be special.
So do you guys want to get into ranking the divisions?
I would love to.
Are we going to do rankings like we do, or do the top tier, above average, average, and below average? Or are we going to rank them as like the hardest to least hardest, just in numerical order?
feel
I
like
was thinking. Oops. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying I feel like it'd be easier to do numerical, but what do you think, Dunk?
Yeah, that's what I was going with too.
Oh,
Okay.
perfect.
So I started doing research before the podcast started, and I used what we decided last week as our team rankings, and I've come up with some contenders for what I believe is the worst division. So as per our rankings last week, we had 3 divisions that had 2 teams that ended up in the below average category. That is the AFC East with the Patriots and the Dolphins, the AFC South with the Texans and the Jags, and the NFC North with the Bears and the Lions. Based off our other placings, I believe the worst division is in fact going to be the AFC East. We have the Patriots and Dolphins in the below average. The Jets are in our average category, and the Bills do make an above average appearance, but I think that it's going to be competitive amongst I think the Bills will probably win, but amongst the other 3 teams, I think it will be competitive, but I don't see them doing well.
That's fair. I think it's definitely between the AFC South and the AFC East.
Yeah. With the AFC South being the Texans and the Jags we're both putting below average, and we put the Titans and the Colts are both in the above average category. But I feel like whoever wins the division, and I do think there's a chance that Tennessee still wins that division. I don't think they're completely out of it. I think Derrick Henry is amazing, but I think whoever wins that division is probably going to be a 10-11 win team, and I can see the Texans and the Jags doing 5 or less win seasons.
I would agree with Ben's assessment on the AFC East being, the worst division, and I think AFC South is a second.
Yeah, I mean, I have no issues with the AFC East being the worst. I mean, because Miami is still rebuilding. New England is obviously rebuilding. Jets, I don't know what to think of the Jets. And even Buffalo, who we know is the only good team, I could see them going like 9-7 or 8-8, but they could still win the division just because I just don't trust Josh Allen enough personally. And I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a division that could be worse than the AFC South, like actually worse, but like one's not really because the Texans still have the chance to be good because I mean they still have Deshaun Watson. So he puts them in contention to be a playoff team. So I mean that could still be 3 playoff teams in the fray. But I can't think of another division that's worse than them or than the AFC. Because they're not saying that it's the AFC South can be a bad division, but I think all these other divisions are just gonna have so much more firepower than what the AFC South has that I guess I can't really refute it,
So are we going with the consensus worst division, the AFC East? Does anybody have any other?
No, AFC.
That's fair.
All right, AFC East is going to be our bottom division then. It's the worst division.
I do just want to quick mention, you did miss out one division that there is also 2 in the below average category.
What is that?
The NFC North.
I said the NFC North.
I thought you only said the AFC South and the AFC East on the recording.
No, I said the first 3, but then Duncan highlighted the 2 AFC ones first.
That's fair.
Yeah, to be honest,
my bad.
I actually might refute that the NFC North is the second worst division. I'm gonna refute that.
Yeah. So do you think the NFC North is worse than the AFC South?
Yes.
Yes, I think the NFC North is the second worst division in football because
I agree.
Consensus right now is Green Bay and Minnesota are the best teams in that division. And I don't think there's any issue with that. I mean, it all depends on how you view it because I could see Green Bay having a down year. But again, when you have Aaron Rodgers, you're going to always be in contention to be a playoff team. Obviously, Minnesota is a good team. I don't think Chicago is in a tough spot because unlike the Texans at least can trust their quarterback. The Bears cannot.
They do have Nick Foles.
Again, they cannot trust their quarterback. They cannot trust their quarterback. I trust Deshaun Watson more than I trust any quarterback that the Bears have. So and then obviously Detroit's Detroit. You're always going to have your bottom feeder, and Detroit's that bottom feeder. But I think the difference for me, honestly, is Chicago. And Green Bay is going to have a much tougher schedule this year, but I still think they can be. They have the potential to be a playoff team. But I don't think the Bears can, strictly because of their quarterback play, and at least the Texans have good QB play.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think they're the worst too, and I'm looking at those bottom 2 teams again. If we compare them to the AFC South, the bottom teams being the Texans and the Jags, I honestly I can see the Jags and the Lions having a similar sort of season, but I do think the Texans are better than the Bears.
Yes, I agree with that too. So for that, I am gonna put the NFC.
I agree.
Below the AFC South, but AFC South to me is probably the third worst. Not probably.
Yeah, does anybody
Does
anybody have any other problems with putting NFC North as the second worst division?
No, I think that's probably the right place for him.
All right, I think that's fair too. So I'm gonna put NFC North, and then AFC South as the third worst.
Oh yeah.
All right. So I was kind of thinking this in my head. Do you want to try to come up with the top divisions and then fill in the middle? Because the middle is going to be a lot more debating, I think.
Yeah.
So from what I have looked at and what I think is going to be the top division, it's probably going to be the NFC West. So you got the Niners, the Seahawks, the Cardinals, and the Rams. The Rams and the Cardinals, we both ranked average. Seattle above average. San Fran top shots. San Fran will probably be, if not the best team in the NFC, one of the best teams in the NFC. I think Seattle will probably will put up double-digit wins and probably make a playoff run. And I think both the Cardinals and the Rams could potentially have a chance of sneaking into the bottom of the playoffs. So I think they are together the best division.
See, my things, I'm questioning how much the Rams dropped that division.
I do think the Rams are probably one of the weakest team in this division, but I still think overall, if the Rams are the weakest team in the division, that's a pretty solid division, you know?
Yeah, no shit. Well, and again, personally, I think the Rams roster has less questions than the Cardinals roster because, yeah, we can talk about the Cardinals offense all we want. They still don't have a very good defensive line.
No,
they still
defense is going to be interesting for the Cardinals.
Yeah, at least the Rams know who their defense. At least we have some key defensive players on that won't make us worse. True. But for me, it's a toss-up. I shouldn't even say really a toss-up, but like when I was thinking about this, I was debating either the NFC West or the NFC South. But I again went with the consensus of the NFC West. I was thinking either the NFC West or the AFC West with the Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos, and I would personally put the NFC South second, but like AFC West, if we put them at two, like I'm not gonna be mad about it. I have no issue with the NFC West being the best division because all of those teams, first off, they have their quarterback. Yeah. You know, both have a lot of all those teams have a lot of expectations going into the year. Some more than others, but expectations nonetheless. Like, there's just firepower on every single team there. Like, whether it's on defense or offense, there's firepower on every single team in the NFC West.
What do you think, Duncan? What do you think the top division is?
I think it's a toss-up between the NFC West and the AFC Broncos division.
The AFC West.
Chiefs. The AFC West. But I'm also... So my problem with that one is I think the Chargers, Broncos, and Chiefs are easily very high up there. They raise it, but then I really question the Raiders in that decision. I think I'd go with the Rams over the Raiders, though.
I do too, and that's why I think we should put the NFC West as our number one.
Agreed.
Okay.
All right, NFC West.
And then would you guys agree that the AFC West is the second best?
I will push back for the NFC South personally, because I think obviously you have the Saints in Tampa. You know, obviously they have their, you know, we can agree to disagree what Tampa's going to do, but you can't deny that they have insane expectations and for obvious reasons. Carolina, I guess for me, it's also like, for me, Carolina is not going to be as bad as everyone says they are, because I think their offense is just going to be like a low-key top 10 in the NFL. But their defense is going to be insanely young and terrible. And even Atlanta, because like Atlanta, if they're, you know, if some of their pieces, because they have Keanu Neal, right? Keanu Neal, and then who's their other safety or guy in the secondary?
Well, they had Desmond Trufant and they lost him. I know Deion Jones is a good player for them. He's a linebacker.
Is it Ricardo Allen? Is it Ricardo Allen and?
Yeah, it's Ricardo Allen and Keanu Neal as the safeties.
Exactly. Yeah, but they just can never stay healthy, you know. So that's just kind of the issue. And obviously, Atlanta's always weird because like Matt Ryan's the probably the best B+ quarterback in the NFL, and it's like they obviously have insane weapons. You know, I have my opinions on Todd Gurley, but I mean, you certainly don't get worse by having Todd Gurley on your football team.
Right. So I think what we need to do, I think comparing them wise, obviously I think both divisions have I think they both have a pretty solid top two teams. I think what's going to come down to is comparing the bottom two again. If you compare, I think the Raiders and the bottom tier of the South, the Panthers, I think the Raiders and the Panthers could have similar seasons.
Yeah, I would take Carolina over Las Vegas, but that's just my opinion.
And then it's comparing probably the Broncos and the Falcons, which I think, again, it could be a toss-up. I think both of them will probably...
And that's where I think the Broncos would take it.
Oh, I think Broncos are better than Atlanta, hands down. I don't even think that's a question.
Then I think you'd make the AFC West the team, no?
I mean, but I mean, yeah, that's true. I mean, are we? Because I mean, we could compare the top teams. I mean,
Oh yeah, if you compare the top teams, you have. I think it'd be KC and
I mean,
the Saints.
In terms of the more complete roster, I would take New Orleans, but Kansas City has Patrick Mahomes, so it's like that's kind of a toss up there.
And then if you compare the Chargers to the
Tampa,
I think Tampa potentially has a higher ceiling than the Chargers. But if I were to trust a team more, I think I trust the Chargers a little bit better.
Yeah, and I have no issue with that take because obviously Tampa has all these expectations for some odd reason. But
I think
that's a pretty.
I think fair the Chargers are, yeah.
Because Tampa still doesn't have a defense.
Right.
Chargers are going to have one of the best defenses in the league.
And I think the Chargers already have a couple other established good players. Obviously, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler. I think will all be good next year.
Right.
So I would take the Chargers over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah.
So I really again I think the AFC West is the second one. If you compare every matchup, I really think the AFC West team has the advantage, except for maybe the bottom tier.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
So AFC West,
no issues with that.
All right, so we'll put AFC West as our number 2, and then putting the
NFC South.
NFC South is third. I think is a good spot for them.
Yeah.
So then we just have 2 left, and we put the 4 and the 5 slot. It's come down to the NFC East and the AFC North.
Oh my good. Okay, I forgot about the AFC North. I forgot about the AFC because I can see
the North being the Ravens, Steelers, Browns, and Bengals. Excuse me.
TBH, I would put the AFC North above the NFC South personally. I could make a case for them being better than the AFC West. I won't just because we have already established who. I'm gonna say the AFC North actually is probably the third best division though. I would say so.
I'd agree. I actually looking at it.
According to our rankings for last week, the Ravens being on Top Shot, we put the Steelers and the Browns as average, and we put the Bengals in below average. I think it's close, but if we're comparing teams again, top of the board you have Ravens, Saints. We both put them in Top Shots for a reason. They're probably both 2 of the best teams in the NFL right now. But then I think there's a bigger drop down to that next team, which is it going to be the Steelers or the Browns?
Oh, I see. And I don't even think I think both Pittsburgh and Cleveland can be really good this year.
Oh, I agree with that. I think the big thing that leans me towards the North being better is the Steelers. They did so well without a damn quarterback with Big Ben back. I think they have a chance to not only be second in the division, but I think they have a chance to win that division.
Do you think that the Steelers are better than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Yes.
Yes, just because we don't know what we're gonna get. We have Gronk, who we don't know.
I think Pittsburgh has a more complete roster.
That's a good way to put it.
So do you want to put the AFC North then above the NFC South?
Yes.
All right. So then it will be the AFC North as the third spot. AFC North. The NFC South then at 4. And then it would be the NFC East dead center in the middle.
And I think that's a fair spot for it.
I think so too.
I would agree. Dallas and Philly are going to be good. Washington could be a sleeper, and Giants are going to be dog shit. LOL.
I really think that if we look at our list where it's at, I think the only parts that could maybe switch themselves around, is that 3 and 4 slot. But I like where we're at for just where we're at now before the season. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
So based off cardinal directions, the worst direction is east.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's facts.
Okay.
That was pretty easy. It was pretty.
That was not as controversial as I thought it would have been, but sometimes it's okay.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a lot more controversial than it was. But that wraps that up.
Yeah.
Moving on next. We're talking about the NFL. The NFL has had a lot of arrests lately.
No shit. Like, I don't even know where this all popped up from. Like the other day, who just got arrested the other day?
So it started with Bosby and some other guy. It's alleged to be a poker game that caused that. And then it was Cody Latimer.
Cody Latimer, that's who.
Yep. And then Ed Oliver got arrested.
Ed Oliver, that was the other one I was thinking of, which is crazy because he's a key piece of that Buffalo defense.
And then somebody for the Colts.
Yeah, well, the big arrest was Quinton Dunbar and DeAndre Baker, the armed robbery one.
The most recent, Antonio Morrison was the most recent. He's on Colts. So there's been like 6 arrests in the past week alone for NFL players.
Yeah, and I believe Quinton Dunbar posted bail this morning, if I remember right, or today.
Yep. And I think Ed Oliver is out too.
But yeah, I mean, Ed Oliver was a DWI and weapons charges. Quinton Dunbar and DeAndre Baker were armed robbery with a weapon. Cody Latimer was a discharge of a firearm. I mean, it seems like guns is a fairly common firearms and illegal weapons are a fairly common theme with all these arrests.
Guns and poker.
Guns and poker.
That's what all except for Ed Oliver's the only one that doesn't involve poker.
Yes.
So but guns and poker.
He was drinking and driving though.
Which is wrong, guys. Don't do that.
Exactly.
You have to know when to hold them. And this goes for poker and guns.
Yeah.
That's a message from the SighSquad Pod.
It's a great message.
What do you think is causing this recent string of arrests? And they're all fairly serious arrests too. It's not like just like a DUI or something minor. It's discharge of a firearm, armed robbery kind of.
Yeah, and I think that it has to do with, for the first time in these guys' careers, as a professional, they don't have structure. So normally with the NFL, your season gets over, you go into the off season, but you're still doing stuff, and then OTAs start. But this year they have virtual OTAs, which, let's be real, you're not actually being held accountable for anything in those. And so I think it's just they're not being held accountable for anything. And so they're just making these dumb mistakes because most of these guys that are arrested aren't like old veteran guys. They're still somewhat young, and so I think they just don't have the structure that they'd normally have, and they're not taking it well.
Yeah, I think it's a bad mixture of young players, time off, and firearms.
Yeah.
I just think people are bored. Like, people are just like, they're just like, and it's sad. That sounds bad to say, but I just think people are bored out of their mind. Like you said, they have no structure. They have nothing to do. And notice how all these guys are young players who, you know, I really don't really know. Like, I would just say it's because they're bored and they're young and they're stupid. I guess that'd be the only logical thing I could say.
Do you think that they will be punished for all these arrests? Because I know Ed Oliver's going back to OTAs. The guys involved in the alleged robbery aren't.
Yeah, so I think the most serious one being that the alleged armed robbery with Quinton Dunbar and DeAndre Baker. I think with players like them who aren't superstars, they aren't amazing players. I could see both teams just cutting them. I mean, your 4th string corner tell somebody to murder somebody else. There's no point in keeping him.
Right.
I don't think Cody Latimer with the is an assault charge and a weapon discharge. Also, I don't think the Redskins are going to want to keep him either. Again, it's a guy where he isn't a superstar. He isn't like a main starter. He isn't like a super. There's no reason for the Redskins to keep.
He was a big pickup for the Redskins, though.
Right.
Like,
that is true, and I know they just picked him up, but.
And if I'm not wrong, I believe that I think it was an argument with neighbors over something poker. And so I don't necessarily know if you have to cut him because it started by not him. He's just the one. He's the big name. And so I think he got caught up getting the bad end of it.
Yeah.
So I'm doing more research on the Cody Latimer one. So he does have a criminal history. He's been arrested twice, one for a outstanding parking ticket, one for a domestic violence. But I think just with the fact that he fired the firearm he fired at somebody or whatever they decide, obviously he's just been charged with it. Whatever legally they decide is going to matter. But if they determine that he had shot the fire off intently for either to scare or to hurt somebody, I don't see why the Redskins would keep him. I think that's not just a good person you want on your team.
That's fair.
I think I'm going to agree with you on a lot of things. It kind of is just going to depend on what the final stance is on it. Because with the charges that are put against him, we've seen people still play with worse charges and stuff. And I think Ed Oliver will definitely not. I mean, obviously he's back in OTAs. I think he'll be fine NFL-wise. I mean, obviously,
I think the worst thing to come from him is just a fine.
Yeah.
A fine and put into the substance of abuse policy.
True.
Yeah. But if Latimer gets, even if he gets charged with even just the assault, or if it's assault with a deadly weapon because it's a firearm, I don't know. I wouldn't. If I was them, the Redskins, I wouldn't keep him. But I guess it's up to the Redskins organization.
Yeah, and they are a shitty organization. So I mean,
right? Dan
you never know.
Schneider is a guy that won't necessarily. He's not a very. He says he'll say he is, but he's not a very prideful person. I could see him keeping Quentin Dunbar because he'll look at it for the sake of the team. It'll be the best move, which it will be. I mean, they'll be better with Quentin Dunbar there, but realistically, it's not a safe move.
Cody Latimer.
Oh, I'm sorry, Cody Latimer. I don't know why I said Quentin Dunbar.
He's part of the other one.
Right. Well, yeah. There's too many crimes to keep track of. Goddamn, which is sad.
Right. On a more positive note, there was a lot of sports this weekend.
There was.
There was I can't pronounce the soccer league.
Bundesliga.
The Bundesliga. There was golf. There was Korean baseball. There was NASCAR.
Oh my gosh.
Bull riding, and there was UFC.
Okay, but before we continue, can I say something that's wild? That's totally wild that I did not know about. Speaking of Korea, so apparently a soccer league in Korea, they got in trouble because they used a bunch of sex dolls as fans.
Yeah. Which I'm not opposed to. I mean, fans are fans.
I thought it was fucking hilarious. I saw that news. I was just like, oh my god, that's golden. I wouldn't apologize for that.
I wouldn't either. They dressed him up. It's all that they do.
Yeah, they dressed him up. They got him in proper, whatever.
They're in their uniforms.
Right. I blame everyone. I blame the officials for not being mature enough.
Exactly.
I blame the officials for being jealous of how much sex those dolls have had.
You know what? Someone was probably just jealous.
Probably.
LOL. But anyway.
Yeah, I think it was an exciting weekend for sports.
Oh, yeah.
In the past 68 days, I think this is the best outlook we've had.
And not to mention, there's a lot of good news coming out. Baseball released their official plan to come back. Basketball is starting to open up some facilities and stuff. MLS as teams are turning back to training. So there's a lot of positive stuff with other leagues coming back, which is awesome.
Speaking of basketball, they opened facilities and they are gearing towards a comeback. And it just came out today actually that some playoff players, they didn't release which players, which is kind of disappointing, but they told the players to prepare their families to make a temporary move to either Las Vegas, Orlando, Florida, or the Bahamas. And so what do you guys think that means in terms of how the NBA will approach this, whatever you want to call it, the playoffs?
Yeah. I mean, I know NBA said, when they had, their Zoom meeting with a bunch of the players in the NBA Players Association, they said there was a lot of momentum to return, which is just awesome to hear. So I could definitely see this just being, their move, hey, it's not official yet. We're still working some things out, but just be prepared. This will be the plan if it falls through.
Right.
I think it's great. I mean, now, whether it's all premature, at this point, I have no clue anymore because I just don't. I've heard so many different things. We're getting a second wave. We're fine, blah, blah. at this point, I just don't know anymore. So I'm just going to kind of take everything with a grain of salt and just trying to be a positive sports fan. But it's awesome news to hear. And I hope they can fix. And obviously everything is going to be included without fans. So I just hope that everything is, and I know they're doing their best to put everyone's safety first and all that stuff. So I love seeing it. And I just know that everyone's doing their best to take it the safe route. So I just hope they make sure to keep that in mind because I know they're going to get excited for everything to return, but they just got to keep in mind what matters the most, and that's just the health of everyone involved.
That's very fair. Also the NHL, you mentioned they were talking about getting their comeback, and they've said that they're looking at 8 or 9 locations. They're targeting the beginning of July, to restart up their season, and they also talked about a possibility of a 24-team March Madness style bracket for the playoffs. What do you guys think of bracket style play for the NHL, who for most of this time have said they wanted to go back to a regular season?
If you really think about it, like the NHL normally is ending in a couple of weeks from now.
True.
So for them to be already pushing it back by like a month, I feel like they're just going to try to do something that is less time consuming, which is unfortunate because obviously we want things to just be like they always were. But during this time, during all of the uncertainties and everything that's going on, they have to make some adjustments so that way, things aren't changed 10 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we have to make sure that we can get back on track when we can get back on track. So we have to make certain sacrifices in order to ensure the safety of everybody, players, fans, and to just, get the content back out there.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And other news, the MLB themselves were saying that they were ready for a comeback, but then the players, especially some major name players, voiced that they didn't want to come back with the MLB's proposal of a 40% pay cut and I think less games. But the biggest guy against that is Blake Snell. He actually came out against it on a Twitch stream and kind of broke social media for a while with his talking about how he's not going to play if he's not getting the money he has. He only has a certain amount of arm strength left. He doesn't know when that is, and he doesn't think he should waste his talented seasons on something that won't matter and he won't get paid for when he's one of the best guys they have. And then Bryce Harper was also kind of backing Blake Snell off, and Nolan, some other guy,
Arenado
was also backing up. And I think those big 3 names and the MLB saying that, I think that probably talks a lot towards what the MLB players besides them are thinking as well. So do you guys think that they also came out and said the MLB will lose $640,000 per game that they play without fans? Do you think it's just time they should just scrap their season? Or do you think that there will be a compromise that they can make?
Quite personally, I don't think there's any issue with the plans MLB has. I mean, now, obviously, if there's no fans, they lose money that way. I mean, there's nothing you can do about that, but you got to applaud MLB for doing their best to just try and still salvage a season. And again, I think having a shorter season will just benefit baseball in terms of competition. And once fans are allowed back, I mean, I could argue there's going to be more fans because all those games are going to seem a lot more important because games in the middle of July, first off, MLB will, people will get their money. Like MLB will still get their money in some way, whether it's not through ticket sales. They'll get their money in some way, and we may see more like TV sponsorships wanting to jump in just because there's, less games being played. They can cover more baseball, especially with nothing else going on. I could see TV contracts wanting to jump on more of that stuff, all that. But it'll make every game more important, which makes you want to go because, you can go to a freaking, an Arizona Diamondbacks game in the middle of July and it won't matter because you're already 15 games out of first place, So in that regard, I don't think it matters, but someone else wants. I have my opinions on the players, but I have talked for too long. Someone else should go.
I kind of agree with Noah. I don't think they should scrap their season just because with this whole COVID thing and this whole lack of sports, even if they come back on a short season with no fans, whatever, they're starting to get tons of views. People are so deprived for sports. If they come back, I don't think the MLB is going to have any problem making money this season. And I think the players are probably jonesing to go. I say go for it.
Yeah, I agree. Go for it. And if the players are going to piss and moan about it, that's the. So how many? So far it's been what? Nolan Arenado, Blake Snell, and Bryce Harper
that have publicly came out.
Yep.
Yeah.
It won't be an issue for Major League Baseball until Mike Trout says something, until Aaron Judge says something, until Clayton Kershaw says something. Basically, what I'm getting at is players who are more valuable to Major League Baseball than those players. I mean, like Bryce Harper is obviously a star in Major League Baseball, but now with the rise of Aaron Judge, obviously Mike Trout's one of the best baseball players we have ever laid eyes on. I'm trying to think of the Braves guy, but he's a big star. Like, there are enough stars in Major League Baseball where if Bryce Harper and Blake Snell and Nolan Arenado are going to bitch and moan, MLB won't care if they're not going to play. Like, there's still going to be enough stars in Major League Baseball to carry their own, as long as no one else goes public about it, which, I mean, I don't know if they will or not, but as of now, that's where I'm standing on it.
So I think it's interesting, to say the least. I definitely kind of feel for what the players are saying about the pay cuts and side of things, because it's like they didn't ask for this to happen and whatnot. But on the flip side, they're actually going to get paid. Which what was the MLB's change to payments and stuff when everything shut down?
40% pay cut is what they are saying.
Yeah, but what was it like? What is it now without the season? Are they getting paid anything?
Yeah, they'd be splitting a certain amount of money. They'd be making about $190,000 each.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of what would happen if there was a strike or something. That's what they'd make.
So the way I look at it is, if they go to play, especially players like Bryce Harper, the $40,000 the $190,000 that he's making now is a fraction of what he'd be making with like 40% of his, wages.
But then if you look at Blake Snell or whatever, he went through it and he wouldn't be making anywhere close to. He signed a contract not that long ago. He wouldn't be making anywhere close to where he should be making, and I think that's his problem. It's not necessarily the money you get now. I think it's, I should get this money. I already agreed to this contract, and if I'm not going to get that money, I'm not going to play, type of thing.
Which I think it may be okay to just kind of let the MLB let their players opt out. There can be an asterisk by this season, in my personal opinion. Because, I get it. If you're going to go in and play and not make that much money and, deteriorate yourself physically, because, we all know that these professional athletes have the wear and tear from playing season after season. If that's something you're not comfortable with during this time, I feel like you should be able to opt out. But I definitely think MLB still needs to more so push for the season. So it's just a weird time for everything, because everything's changed.
Everything has changed.
That is very true, though. Real quick though, some breaking news coming out of the UFC, as Khabib, the NFC or the UFC fighter, probably the best in the world right now, says that COVID-19 is behind his father's heart complications that caused him to go into a coma. And more than 20 of his relatives are either sick or have passed away to the virus. So it's really putting into question whether he'll come back to compete for the title anytime soon. I know they had the interim championship match within the past week here, but do you think, that you'd have to strip him of it, altogether, if he doesn't come back? Because he is one of the biggest names in the UFC right now. Of course, you can go without him and be just fine, but I think because he's an international guy, I think this could be detrimental to the UFC in a way.
Yeah. It's crucial. You're losing one of your top stars in your most popular division. Now if no one's if he's not gonna compete, I mean, you may have to think about it because it just depends on how long he's gonna be gone. But it's a huge blow for UFC, especially when they were gaining so much momentum by returning to where it's just like, dang, like this is just a shot we didn't really need.
Yeah,
I think from like a PR standpoint, whatever he has, like as of right now, you don't take away. But if he does step away, obviously he wouldn't be gaining anything else. I feel like they really need to like keep that an option, because I just feel like everybody has to make sure that the safety of people and family situations is accounted for.
And with sports possibly coming back without fans, the Fox has actually came out, and Joe Buck specifically, and talked about ways that they would focus things so there wouldn't necessarily be that dead air type of deal like there was with the golf this weekend. That'd be to pump crowd noise into these events and then use all their like graphics and stuff to make them look like there are fans. I definitely think it's a better way to go. What do you guys think? Than being like silent and stuff.
Yeah, no issues with it. I mean, for the viewership standpoint, it makes it seem a little less awkward. But no, I think it's this is why I've always liked about Fox Sports. They've always just been trying to be innovative and creative in how they present sports. And they're one of the best, probably the best in the business at it. So this is just another thing that Fox Sports is trying to do to enhance the viewer experience, which is what they've been good at for years upon years.
So, quick question. So Fox Sports, they want to put fan noise. Do they say that any sports they want to try it with, or any events specifically they were going to try it with?
Their biggest one was this fall. They're really focused on making the football not seem so awkward. But they also wanted to try it with like kind of everything, just in different ways.
I was as interesting because I was reading a thing the other day talking about how a lack of fans might affect the NFL season, and this guy's standpoint was that not only would it greatly affect some games, because obviously there's a disadvantage playing in an away game, especially if you're playing in a loud stadium. You kind of lose that extra effect. So you could have, I don't know, you could playing at home is not as much of an advantage anymore if there's lack of fans. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Right.
If teams going away isn't as big of a deal if it's quiet, and I think it could greatly affect some outcomes of games.
And I also think it could affect some of the drive that the guys have to be playing, because the fans really seem to boost some guys' play level. Like, without having the fans there to cheer them on, they wouldn't be able to go out with that energy that they'd have. And so I guess my biggest question for the Fox thing would be, would the teams be able to hear it while they're playing, or would it be more just for people watching? I don't know what the answer to that is.
If I had to guess, it would probably be just for the people watching, and the reason is Fox doesn't. The NFL controls the stadium and all that stuff. Fox is just broadcasting, so Fox could not put, like, if they were to play in the actual stadium, Fox would not have the ability to do that. They'd have to work out something with the NFL and the teams to do that. So if it was a Fox thing, I presume it would just be for the viewers at home.
That's fair. Anything else you guys got for this week?
I got nothing really.
Do you guys want to go into our Hall of Fame or Hall of Lame segment?
Yeah, sure. Might as well.
So we've done this the last couple weeks. The Hall of Fame or the Hall of Lame, we're going to go over a player, either current or past. We're going to evaluate his career and determine whether or not we believe said player is a Hall of Fame player. So this week we are doing Cowboys, Eagles, Titans running back DeMarco Murray.
I'll go first. I'll just say that I do not think that he's done enough to be a Hall of Famer.
I agree.
I don't. Oh, you go, Ben.
So I was doing some research on DeMarco Murray, trying to figure out what necessarily would constitute him to be a Hall of Famer. So he played 2011, and he was on Arizona, or it was 2011 to 2017 was his playing years, so that's 6. He's a 3-time Pro Bowler, 1-time All-Pro, 1-time Offensive Player of the Year. He ends his career with 7,000 rushing yards, 49 touchdowns, 300 receptions, and 2,000 receiving yards. I don't think he doesn't have the numbers to be a Hall of Famer personally. 7,000 yards and 49 touchdowns is not impressive compared to a lot of other Hall of Fame running backs. And obviously he didn't have very long of a career, and he got most of his 7,000 yards his 3 or 4 years in Dallas.
Yeah, no, I do not think he's a Hall of Famer. He's played for like there's an extent to but Barry Sanders' career was short. Calvin Johnson's career was short. Totally different circumstances, because look what they did in those years. And then the only thing that DeMarco Murray would have going for him is that he has some accolades to fall back on, including Offensive Player of the Year and All-Pro, and that of course was that year 2016 where he went off, or
2014.
2014 is when he had his breakout year, which I will admit is obviously one of the best seasons a running back has ever had, like just straight up.
That's true.
But I use that for leverage because, again, I will always say it whenever someone says Cam Newton's an MVP. He should be. No, Rich Gannon was a MVP at 1.2, and he's not a Hall of Famer. A lot of players have like weird breakthrough years where they just blow up. It's one thing if he would have did this if he would have went from team. Well, first off, if he would have been able to continue this, he'd still be in the NFL. Let's just start there. Because if he were to Tennessee, he would still be in the NFL. So that has to be another big indicator why he shouldn't be a Hall of Famer. Especially look at the running backs he's had to play like the other running backs in this era that he's played with, like Adrian Peterson. Who else has been playing this era that's probably a Hall of Famer?
Marshawn Lynch. We talked about Shady. He's played with some really good running backs in this era that he's not even top 5 amongst a lot of those guys. Mm-hmm. So that's another big thing against DeMarco.
Brendan, what do you have?
I'm on the same boat as everybody else. He came into the league. He blew up when he was in Dallas. He went to the Eagles, did terrible. He did have a little bit of a comeback with the Titans, but he was not nearly his, rushing leader pedigree with them. And then just like that, he was gone.
Yeah, just like that, he's out of the league.
Wow.
He came in, he ran so fast that he left fast as well.
And if you look, you could also make the argument that the reason why he was successful was the Cowboy system he's put in. Obviously, he had a great offensive line. The previous year, the year after, so he left. 2014 was his last year in Dallas. 2015, Dallas added Darren McFadden from the Oakland Raiders, who his last couple years on the Raiders were not great. He had a 500-yard, a 300-yard, and a 600-yard season running. He came up, put up 1,100 yards with the Cowboys, and I don't know. You could argue that that offensive line was good, that even Darren McFadden next year put up 1,100 yards.
Huge argument, especially when you go with Darren McFadden. I didn't even know he ran for that many yards. Holy crap. So you mean tell me he doubled his rushing yards just by playing against that Dallas offensive line?
In 2014, he had 534 rushing yards with the Oakland Raiders on 155 attempts. In 2019, he had 239 attempts for 1,089 yards.
Crazy. That should be the indicator right there, personally.
Yeah, and Darren McFadden, he did have 1,000-yard season beforehand. That was back in 2010 with the Raiders. But other than that, it's been 300, 500, 400. And after the 2015 season, he had 87 yards and then -2 yards. So I think Darren McFadden, obviously, he was blessed with an amazing Cowboys offensive line. I honestly don't think he's an alpha running back by any means, but I think he got lucky. He got a good system for where he was, but he's not a Hall of Famer. He just doesn't have any of the career numbers to be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, that's fair.
He is currently the running back coach at Oklahoma, though, which I'm happy for him.
I think that's a great spot for him, actually.
Yeah,
I think that he could be one of those players that's a really good coach, actually.
Yeah, I think so too.
Maybe he'll be a Hall of Fame coach one day.
Hey, you never know. That's probably his only chance.
It was definitely really interesting, DeMarco Murray's last year with the Titans, because it was also Derrick Henry's first year with the Titans. And, so everybody always talks about, DeMarco Murray just blowing everyone out of the water with Dallas. But, when he ended his career with the Titans, they were kind of like a 1-2 punch system in the backfield. It was definitely really fun to watch him. Obviously, he didn't put up nearly the same stats, but it was fun to watch.
And he did have his third Pro Bowl year in Tennessee with just under 1,300 yards in 2016, but he didn't do anything after that. Obviously, with the drafting of Derrick Henry.
And now Derrick Henry's better than DeMarco Murray.
Yes.
So sad. But yeah. So DeMarco Murray is in our Hall of Fame. All right. To end the show here, we'd like to say Pat McAfee for Monday Night Football. They have found they're on their final 5, reports are saying, and Pat McAfee is one of those final 5, but he's at the bottom of the final 5. We want Pat McAfee to get the job.
We need your support, everyone. We need you to make an outcry on Twitter.
If you listen to him, he says there's not a chance he gets it. Just give him a chance.
I think he should get it. Actually, this is why they should give it to him. Because first off, they schedule terrible Monday Night Football matchups anyway, because you can't flex those games out. So a lot of times people don't watch Monday Night Football. So if you want people to tune in, throw some Pat McAfee on that bitch, and people will watch.
Right?
Tell me I'm wrong.
You're not wrong at all.
Pat
McAfee, go.
I'm just saying that because I like Pat McAfee. I think that Monday Night Football should do that. I think they really should. Because first off, it'll be better than whoever they freaking had before. My goodness.
Boger and Test something.
Yeah, Joe Tessitore, who every time he talks, I just think of him watching college football, which just automatically downplays the quality. If you get Pat McAfee, there's going to be a show within the show. Because Pat McAfee, he knows his football, but he's going to be so entertaining, you're not going to want to miss what he's talking about. And especially for Monday Night Football, because you could get a shitty matchup week 13 between the, 2 teams that are not even the playoff hunt, but it would still be interesting because of Pat McAfee.
Mm-hmm. The candidates are Louis Riddick, Dan Orlovsky, Pat McAfee, and then Steve Levy. And I think Orlovsky and Pat McAfee would be a great 2-man booth.
I think it would too. Orlovsky, if it's not going to be McAfee, it should be Orlovsky because honestly, he's such a knowledgeable guy about football. He would be so good in that role. He would be such a great commentator with his insight.
Yeah, but yeah, for the SighSquad Pod, I'm Duncan.
I'm Noah.
I'm Ben.
And I am. Shoot, who am I this week? Never mind.
Oh.
That's Brennan. This has been another great episode of the SighSquad Podcast. Thanks for listening.